happy retirement, right? So this is the happy retirement segment because we actually had a solid amount of fighter retirements or talking about retirements that I don't think a lot of people expected. So first and foremost, from the UFC San Diego card, Nina Nunes gets a split decision dub over Cynthia Calvillo, and then says, you know what, I'm going to hang him up. I'm going to focus on coaching. I think I've accomplished basically everything that I've wanted to accomplish. Even though she never secured a championship, she is married to the greatest woman fighter of all time. So, you know what I mean? That's that. Were you surprised? Did you see this coming? Did you know that her motivations for fighting were maybe a little lacking, maybe a couple months ago, a couple fights ago from this point? What do you think?
Yeah, not super surprised. Like was when it all went down, I wasn't expecting her to be retiring right off the bat, but I could kind of see something coming down the pipe. I noted it in the pre-show that it seems like a lot of the heat is for Amanda Nunes, her wife. So with Nina kind of always being put on the back burner, it seems like I felt like there's a little something behind it. And it kind of makes sense now. So surprised, but not like super shocked. What about you, Derek?
You know what? I wasn't super shocked, but I was a little surprised just because I was like, okay, you got this win. It's at featherweight. So, I mean, not featherweight, flyweight, so you're going to have to make your trek up. And the person waiting on the top of that mountain is Valentina Shevchenko. Do you really, So I wasn't super surprised given the circumstance. But I was a little surprised because I always felt like Nina Nunes just needed to get a couple fights after the pregnancy to get back into good form. And then to just call it, it is what it is, man. So happy retirement for Nina Nunes. And I do have to say, she finished 11-7 in her MMA career, 5-4 in the UFC. And that was her flyweight debut, man. So she got the dub in her debut. No better time to walk away. And this is a notable trend that you're going to see here, AJ. 5-4 was her record. So in the UFC, so 1 over 500. Best time to get away when you're on top, right? Now, another UFC veteran called it quits just a couple of days ago, AJ, and that's primetime. Uriah Hall calls it quits, man. 17-11 in his MMA career, 10-9 in the UFC. I think we're starting to see the trend of like, all right, we're starting to slip. We're losing a couple, then winning, then losing a couple. I don't want to finish Sam Alvey style. And I'm not trying to even hate on my man Sam Alvey, who has not retired but did get the boot from the UFC. Inevitably, we knew it was going to happen one of these days. It's nothing to be proud of, but you want to see somebody kind of get out while they choose to get out, as opposed to when the sport chooses for them to get out. So let me ask you this here, AJ. Uriah Hall, he's tied with former champion Anderson Silva and Thiago Silva for the most knockouts in middleweight history with 8. Do you think Uriah Hall, had he given it 5 more fights in the UFC, if they granted that to him, could have rebounded from the slump that he was in? Or do you think that it was about, like, we reached our ceiling, we reached our cap, he's kind of that old generation of fighters, let's push it on to the young guns? What do you think?
He's definitely on that kind of that hill, that cusp. So I see where it came from, or I see where, this retirement came from. But when this happened, I saw this post on Instagram, or it might have been on Twitter, one of these ones, and I was a little surprised. I was like, "Damn, Uriah Hall, okay." But at the same point, makes a lot of sense. You get to call his shots, you get to end it on your own, and like you said, you don't got to retire in basically a forced kind of a manner, which I think is always best for these fighters. And like going about it and thinking about it, it makes sense that Uriah Hall, going through all the stuff he has, having a couple of the title shots, all the ups and downs that Primetime has had. It makes a little bit more sense, man. What about you? What do you think, Derek?
You know what? I think that this is the best time to get out. When you're saying my heart's not in it anymore, thank you for everybody for the opportunity. That's the time to get out, man. Don't sit here and say like my life is predicated on fighting. I have to fight. That's my identity, because you will find yourself in a tough situation, kind of similar to this other fighter who's a former UFC title challenger, former Bellator champion, and a PFL veteran alumni. Rory, the Red King MacDonald, hangs it up, AJ. He calls it quits. 23-10-1 in his MMA career. Very successful MMA career. 9-4 in the UFC. Very successful. 3-2-1 in Bellator, where he found himself a champion, but 2-4 in the PFL. And he just recently suffered a 4th loss in his past 5 fights this Saturday when he was knocked out by Delano Taylor less than 4 minutes into their semifinal playoff bout at Cardiff Motorpoint Arena in Wales. Travel all the way to Wales in PFL on the hunt for a PFL, $1 million championship. You lost your last bout in surprising fashion to this kickboxer who you're supposed to take down and dominate. You call it quits, AJ. What's your opinion? Just give me your opinion overall, man. Rory MacDonald will go down as a legend, right? He had those wars with why am I blanking? Who do you have the wars with, AJ? Lawler, there we go. Robbie Lawler, Rory MacDonald. He had the wars. Irreparable damage, some would say, but give me your take on the situation.
Yeah, man. I at first actually saw this one when he I think it was his first ever first round knockout loss. That was the headline. I was like, damn. I mean, that's a great stat for somebody who's, what do you say, 29, 10 and 3 or something like that in his entire MMA career.
It's close, 23, 10 and
Close.
1, but close.
23, 10 and 1. So it was close enough.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, still a pretty big fact. And for the fact of him to have that happen now and then end on a retirement, it's you can see where the trend was going, starting to slip, and being two and three in not the highest level. Well, not the prime time. UFC, because PFL, Bellator, they're all right, competing to be the next big one. And with Rory MacDonald not being the top dog in one of those, it's a little rough.
Yeah, man. So I'm glad too, because this is one of those situations where it used to be just pure money. You drop money on Rory MacDonald, he's getting the dub. Now he's dropping these fights. People are talking crazy. Yeah, man. You just say, you know what? It's time to give it up. I've been fighting since I was 14. I've been fighting professionally since 16. I'm like 33. He's only 33. This dude's so young, man. So it's crazy because he's like, I imagine doing martial arts for the rest of my life. But when you make your exit at 33 years old, it's kind of crazy because you have literally a whole lifetime ahead of you. Like, you're so young. Like, imagine, like, for us, 33 is like, oh man, we're still babies, we're still kids, right? For them, they're like, we lived a whole life at 33 doing MMA. So I guess the big point right here, happy retirement to these good folks. Listen, man, get out while you have the opportunity. Don't let the sport retire you. You know what I mean? You retire from the sport. It is what it is. And my last piece of retirement news before we move on here, AJ, is not somebody newly retired, but somebody who we thought was going to come back from retirement, who has now for the first time publicly spoken out about why he retired. And I'm talking about one of the biggest what-ifs in MMA history, Zabit Magomedsharipov, AJ. 18-1 in his MMA career, 6-0 in the UFC, and retires suddenly, right? So you say, yeah, he had health issues, all that, but talk to me. Help me understand here. And I'm actually going to show the clip, or it's not a clip. I'm not going to show the clip, but I'm going to show the paragraph, the text right here, AJ. So this is what it says right here. These are part of my notes right here. So Zabit says when he was asked why he retired from MMA, there are many reasons. First of all, there were many fight refusals from potential opponents. I wasn't able to get a fight for 2 years. Then the injury started happening. Then I was sick for a long time. I almost didn't recover. There are many reasons for my retirement. The biggest reason was the inability to get fights booked. The UFC wouldn't get me a title fight. The UFC promised me one thing but did another. Both the UFC and potential opponents made promises that they did not keep. So mostly because of that is why I decided to step away. Now, AJ, I actually took one part from this and I really sunk on this and I pondered on it. And it wasn't like the majority, probably what you thought I would say, but it's him saying so mostly because of that is why I decided to step away. So I feel like there's still more. There's still more reasons why he stepped away other than this. But this is a good thing to publicly put out there for, the people, the media to say, yeah, this is why I retired. But deep down, there's probably still some more. So give me your comment on that.
Yeah, I mean that's a very key word to pick up on, mostly, and the way he phrased it, where he was saying all this and then jumping back to him saying it is because of the UFC not getting fights and all that stuff. I mean, it makes sense because he was a very dangerous fighter, man. Not a lot of people wanted to risk what they had, and it must be very frustrating to be in that kind of position and then still have, like you said, the other stuff of the non mostly, but like the other stuff that is right there that's also kind of gnawing at your heels. Rough, man, rough. And I'm excited to see where he goes because I know he's talking about like being a doctor or something. So obviously a very intelligent man, but sad, man, because like you said, one of the biggest what ifs in the entire sports right now. He could have been fired, man.
Absolutely. So happy retirement to Zabit Magomedsharipov, to veteran Uriah Primetime Hall, Nina Nunes, and none other than the Red King, Rory MacDonald. Definitely can't take for granted the entertainment that all of these fighters have provided us over the years. So happy retirement to all of you good folks. And